Night Podcast, a podcast about tabletop games, but mostly board games. I'm your host, Roy Candy, and with me as always is Matt.
Hello.
And Rob.
Hello, hello.
And tonight we have a special guest, Josh from Gray Fox.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yay, he did it.
I'm actually thinking... No, we'll be good. We got to do this. Go ahead. Josh.
Yeah.
Tell us about yourself.
Okay. I'm Josh Lapkovitz. I'm the head of game development for Gray Fox Games, which means that primarily I take the games that have been submitted to us and that we're going to publish, and I put the finishing polish on it. I develop the mechanics to the point that they're ready to go out to all our fine players in the world, and then we send them out. We are a small company of just a couple of guys, so while I am the head of game development, I also do a bunch of other stuff. I'm the press liaison, so I do stuff like podcasts, I write the press releases, I write rule books, we do customer service. So if you've ever bought a Gray Fox game and your components didn't punch right and you were like, hey, I need to get a replacement, if you sent an email, I'm probably the one who answered it, and when you got your pieces, I'm probably the one who put it in the mailbox.
Josh does all the things.
All the things!
How many times have you had to say that, Josh? And I'm not talking about just tonight, but like that was almost verbatim to what you said last time. And so I just want to know, like, how many times does Josh go, I'm the guy, the blah, 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 blah. Like,
Who does all the things.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know, and I don't know that generally I give the same spiel. I just remembered that because it was only a couple minutes ago that I said it to you.
You're amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's honestly probably more stuff that I do, and based on what I'm thinking about or talking about at the time, people get sort of different aspects of my job. The season also matters, because if it's con season and you ask me what I do, my answer is a lot different than if it's if it's the spring and it's development.
I demo
season.
and sell board games to people.
Yeah, almost exclusively. I run a booth. I don't sleep.
Go Huskies.
Nice.
You've said that before, and I say go Blues.
So we've actually had
talking
Josh
about
on the
stuff.
show before, and he talked about a ton about board game development. So if you haven't seen that episode before, make sure to check that out. But this week, we're going to be talking all about Gray Fox games and the games coming up from them. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about what we've been playing.
Boom.
Josh, do you want to start us off?
I do. I want to start us off.
Right.
All right. So I want to frame it differently now because I think the hockey story matters. Hold on. I've been playing a lot of Study in Emerald, which I just want to put out there because the game is incredible. If you guys have not played the second edition, it's awesome. So despite the fact that we published it and I've played it a bajillion times, a lot of my friends are still into it because of the H.P. Lovecraft mythos, because it's a Martin Wallace game, and just because it's a lot of fun. So check it out. But the game that we were talking about before was Innovation, which is creeping back into my regular play cycle, and mostly I play it just my wife and I because it's great as a two-player game. But we've been playing it with other people because we just moved and we had a housewarming game party here where we were playing Innovation. So yeah, I mean, what's funny, Rob? What's funny?
I just want to know who's drying their hair.
Is that? Oh, that's that's my it's my computer fan. Whenever the processor acts up, you can hear it. Now that I have a good microphone, you can hear everything.
Nice.
Okay.
That is insane.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
like a jet taking off. Okay, so Innovation. If you haven't played Innovation, it's this clever little Carl Chittick card game. And like all of his stuff, like Impulse or Motenai, Innovation is this game where the cards just do like a bunch of different stuff, and like there's absolute chaos, and like you have plans and then people mess them up. And it's really dynamic, and the game is maybe best with two. When you know the cards, it's this really clever back and forth. But thematically what you're doing is you're building a civilization from the Stone Age basically up through the modern age. Excuse me. And so every player is trying to hit these certain milestones. They're trying to claim X amount of achievements, which can occur by getting enough points or by meeting specific criteria. So with that in mind, now we got to pause the story again so I can tell you the hockey story because it's relevant. And I know it doesn't seem relevant, but it's relevant. Okay.
That's good.
So sidebar. I've also been watching a lot of hockey. Go Blues. That's fine. But there's this player in the St. Louis Blues, Ty Ratty, who's become like a household favorite because he's scored like a handful of goals this season, and all of them seem to be by accident. So every time Ty Ratty scores a goal, it's like somebody else shot the puck and it ricochets off his body. And the announcers are like, and Ty Ratty scores! And he looks around and he goes,
Yeah.
Yay! So, all right, and sidebar. So we're playing this game of innovation, me and my wife and our friend Sarah. And the game's been going on for maybe 30, 40 minutes. And Sarah and I are neck and neck the whole time. We both have like 3 or 4 achievements, and we both have like high level cards. We're like 8, 9, and 10 cards that we're executing, and these are like modern age cards. And my wife's kind of doing her thing. She doesn't have that many points, and she doesn't have that many achievements, and she's level 5. She's like making fun combos or whatever. So Sarah and I are going back and forth trying to claim these last achievements, and in the final ages of that game, you start unlocking all these different winning conditions. And so I have the sweet combo going, and I execute the effect of one of these cards that says that you get to draw and score a high-level card, and then play a high-level card. So I'm using this combo, and I'm getting more and more powerful cards into play, and we're executing them, and then one of them, I think it's computers, comes out, and when you execute it, it says, if any player has computers and artificial intelligence on their board, and we look around, and I have both of those things, then the player with the lowest score wins. And everybody just kind of looks around, and we look over to Dawn's board, and she looks at her thing, and she goes, so it was one of those moments in a game that, like, it's one of the things I really appreciate about that game, that like there's a lot of element of strategy in it, but like every once in a while the situation just occurs like that, and I don't know, it's hilarious and fun for everybody. Like, yeah. I did it. So anyway, innovation is what I've been playing a lot of lately.
We liked Innovation a lot when I first started playing it with my game group. I played it a long time ago. I think when it first came out, that first edition. It was pretty crazy, but there's like a decent amount of like take that in the game. So we'd always get super mad when we'd set up our combos and stuff, and then somebody would just set up stuff to just start stealing all your things, and you're just like, no, my points and all my things. Oh no. So yeah, it's pretty interesting because like if you have the majority of like a different sort of icon, you kind of protect yourself from people using that stuff against you. So you got to try to build up your icons to make sure that other people can't hurt you and are hurting the other players instead. We also play we play with 4 players a lot, which probably added to the chaos. So
yeah, 4 players, I think you're better off playing as teams as opposed to individuals.
Gotcha.
Which is a variant in the rules. But I really like the ebb and flow of those symbols in that game, that like everybody's trying to build their combos, and then as soon as somebody like finds a combo that's working, they start spamming that combo because they want to use it as much as possible before lose the ability to do that. Right? So like I love that thing where as soon as somebody does something that hurts me, I have to go, and what symbol did you use to do that? Crowns? Okay, my mission is now get crowns. Right? You can kind of respond, and that's fun.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Who wants to go next?
Matt? Was that the what did he say?
Did you say you want to talk about Cosmic Encounter?
No. Although we did play that. I'll let you talk about it. We also played Robo Rally, a game where you try to program a robot to run through flags and then murder your friends in terrible, terrible ways.
Accidentally most of the time.
Yeah, or in my case, I panic and throw down a bunch of stuff and go, I should have made a right turn and I made a left turn. And then somehow through sheer dumb luck, I end up where I was going anyway. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but it happened 3 times in the game I played.
The programming gods were just helping you out.
He's a robotic savant.
Confused. Like I was just like, okay, I needed to turn left, and it's like, I turned right. Oh, I mean, well, that still works. Everything's fine. I actually got farther than I needed to if I went the other way. Like, I wonder if, like, when I go into the programming mindset, because the way the game works is you get a hand of 10 cards, I believe, and then each of these things have various commands. So, like, turn left, do a U-turn, turn right, go forward 1, go forward 2, go forward 3, yada yada yada, back up 1. And you have to play 6 of these in sequential order. Down in a very specific, like, sort of time period. So everybody's kind of sitting there trying to figure out what they're doing, and then the first person to finish their 6 flips over an hourglass, and then everybody else now has to finish it within the amount of time left in the hourglass. So everybody starts to panic, and it's great. I wonder if sometimes I just enter, like, fugue states, where I just sort of, like, see the Matrix, as it were, and just lay down cards, and I'm like, cool, that's it. And then I realized after the fact that was a terrible idea, and it just still works. Like, I'm not quite sure what happens.
You have these Keanu Reeves moments in that game where you're like, whoa, I know programming.
Exactly. So, wow. But yeah, that's pretty much that game, is program little robots to go collect flags that are put on a map full of conveyor belts and various hazards and stuff. And the big mechanic of the game is you can bump into other people and shoot them with lasers and stuff so that you can potentially try to mess them up. But it's a good game. Good fun game. Old game.
Good clean game. No punks in that game.
I think it's kind of crazy, like, in our game, we didn't have a whole lot of running into each other, like, compared to, like, the last time we played it. The last time we played it, we were all over each other. And the paths that we had kind of crisscrossed, so they were pretty good for setting it up to run into each other. We were just randomly, like, spread out and going different directions for a while. It was pretty interesting. I liked how Howard, Rodney's friend that he brought, was literally just, like, doing laps around the map. Couldn't get to the flag, but doing laps. And he wasn't dying. He would get, like, right on the very edge, because if you fall off the edge of the board, that counts as, like, dying. So he'd get, like, right on the edge, but then pull it out and start running around. I think a lot of people had a lot of fun, and it's a pretty quick little game, too. I like, we play where after the first person finishes, we flip over the sand timer, so everybody else has to go really fast. I think the actual rules are that after the second to last person does it, we flip over the sound timer so that they can do it. We do it where it's like speed mode, so it puts it into like Galaxy Trucker territory.
Honestly, I would be comfortable if we just flipped it over and then that was the time you get.
I know, that's like fun. Outright. But I'm really good at like seeing the patterns and stuff and just being like, and my worst thing is when I don't have the things that I need, or people get in my way and mess me up, which is pretty
yeah.
fun.
Like
does that game have player elimination? Can you die enough to be out of the game?
You have to die 3 times to be out of the game, and that means you literally have to fall in a hole or be blasted like 10 times. So it's very rare that there's actually player elimination. I don't know if I've ever had a game where someone's actually been eliminated, but it's normally like you restart and go back to your spawn point for the most part.
That's too bad, because I've never had fun playing Robo Rally, and I thought I just found a loophole to get out of it, but no such luck.
I mean, to be fair, you can take your board and then cross out the life tokens you get and just have 1. So if you fail once, you're done. Like, you can just go super hardcore.
Or you can
I feel like if I've been talked into playing Robo Rally, I've already failed. The game drives me nuts because by all accounts, I should like it. Like, I like the programming, I like the player chaos, but like every time I've played that game, like it's been fun for like 15 minutes, and then it's gone on for like an additional hour.
Have they played like really big maps or?
Maybe. To be fair, I've only played it maybe 3 or 4 times.
Gotcha.
But like, there's years in between, and I let somebody talk me into it. Go like, this time, you're gonna love it.
This sounds like a
the main rule about Robo Rally is play on a really small map with pretty easy flags to get to, because the game comes with tons of crazy boards and stuff where you can literally set up this giant board. But what's the point? Like, the fun part of the game is when you're all close together and interacting with each other. If you get spread out, then the game's kind of like, and I programmed myself over here.
It goes from being a race to like a game of BattleBots, which is much funner.
See, now when I hear you describe it, I go, oh, that sounds fun. But then we're going to end up playing this at a con sometime, and it'll be like, that Roy talked me into playing Robo Rally again, and I hated it.
They're actually coming out with a new edition of Robo Rally. Wizards of the Coast just announced it, and it's actually like a new edition. So he's supposed to have streamlined the rules, made it faster. He took all the numbers off because he used to have like try to figure out who went first in turn order. So now it's sort of like more simultaneous type play, which is it's cool. So Richard Garfield, that guy makes good games, I heard.
Also lasagna. Bad joke is bad. It's okay.
No. That was a good joke.
Thanks, Rob. But yeah, we played that.
Don't
It was
encourage
good.
him, Rob.
Sorry.
Me and Robert are just gonna start making puns for the last laugh of the podcast.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
Rob, do you want to talk about a game?
Yes, I do, Roy Kennedy. Thank you so much for segueing over to me. I got to play Mansions of Madness yesterday, which is one of my favorite games of all time. Love Mansions of Madness. And we played the Blood Ties scenario.
Oh, nice.
And it was my absolute honor to destroy the people that were brand new to the game. And I totally wrecked them. And I had them chasing stuff and doing stuff that they weren't supposed to. But one of my friends, the same people that I played Dead of Winter with last time, those two other couples, one of the couples is new to our church, and the husband's into like comics and board games, and so like, oh, board games, I've got board games, you want to play? And so the very first board game he's ever really played outside of Monopoly was Dead of Winter, and he loved it, and I was like, well, you may like Mansions of Madness, and so we played it, and he was like, well, you guys know I won last time with Dead of Winter, so I feel pretty good about Mansions, and I was like, really? You feel good? Okay.
You won't.
Don't incite the keeper, man. The keeper has all the power.
And we played with the scenario Blood Ties at the very beginning of the game. Everyone has to roll a dice, and the person with the lowest score is the blood relative. Well, the guy who was talking all the smack was the blood relative, and so it was really bad. He was down to 1 health and like 4 sanity. I didn't kill him. I could have killed him, but I crippled him so bad where he could only move 1 space per turn. If he moved any more than that, he'd take additional damage, and so he would die. My objective was I had to get zombies on the altar, and I needed to have at least 6 tokens on the altar to finish. And for every zombie at the end of the round that was on the altar, I got a token for it. And so had a lot of fun. And one of my friends' wife, she's a really good gamer. She actually is a really, really good gamer. She grew up playing games. She's just real smart. And so she's trying to metagame some stuff. And she's figuring some stuff out. I'm like, okay, I need to shut this girl down. And so I started to focus some stuff on her, and I was having people drop stuff and take things away. And I had my Migos. For those that don't know, Migos are like these scorpion-looking creatures with the picture is actually like this big scorpion thing with wings on its back, and it's actually holding a human head in its mouth. And so
isn't it like pulling out the brains?
Yeah, it's like doing something with the head and the brains. It's awesome, super freaky. And so I got this Migo chasing them around, and I'm having them concentrate a lot on the Migo, trying to distract them from the zombies, and so it was great. We had a lot of fun. They really enjoyed it. Mansions of Madness, and I'm excited for its future. Not that we know anything officially, but Christian Peterson said to be excited that more things are coming, but absolutely love that game. It's in my top 5 of all time.
Did they win, or did you?
Oh, no, I won. I crushed them. It was
Okay,
really bad.
Gotcha.
Because I was going to be nice like I was nice in Dead of Winter. It was like, hey, guys, sure, I'll help you guys win. I wasn't the traitor in Dead of Winter. And, usually if I play with people for the first time, I don't try to win because I want people to like the game and come back, and then I'll beat you. Like, oh, okay, you like this game. Well, Mansions of Madness, and I really like this guy. He's a lot of fun, but he's like me where we talk a lot of smack, and so he was just talking too much smack, and then they got all excited because it was all of them versus me, and I was like, oh, okay. And then it was over. The game.
That's the wrong game to be excited about that end.
Does he really talk a lot of smack?
Oh,
do you
bro,
do you
before the
just
game
take
even
smack
started-
really personally? Because
No, no.
the intro to the story was he said, I feel pretty good about my chances, and you were like, oh yeah?
It's a little bit of both.
No,
honestly,
I mean
from
it
an
is a little
outside
bit of both.
perspective.
I am part sensitive woman, so I do get that. But no, he would talk smack like, oh, we're going against Rob. Oh, we're good. We're good.
Oh no!
Oh, Rob's the boss. Oh, okay, yeah, guys, we're fine. And he was like, yeah, what was the last game we played? You said was going to be kind of tough, and I won that, right? You lost, right? I won and you lost. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, oh, so I get to pick a character with a gun, and you think you're going to beat me, and I have a gun? I was like, yeah, okay. I think he had the gun for like one round, and after that, I kept on making him dropping it. And the game was tough because you have to use an action to pick it back up again. So like half the time he's running around trying to pick up his weapon, and then I force his player away. And then because you can play cards where you move different investigators around, and so it was a lot of fun. I wrecked him. I wrecked him really, really bad.
Did you summon a ton of those giant worm monsters?
I did not. I was nice in that aspect. Blood Ties is a pretty simple. Like the only monsters in that game is you get Amigo, you
a
get
bunch
a
of zombies,
cultist,
right?
and it's mostly zombies. Zombies are the ones that you can summon. The cultist and the Migo. The Migo comes from an event. After you put the timers on the event deck, it comes from that, and then the cultist comes from one of the cards you get to draw from the Mythos deck. So, but besides that, it was absolutely love Mansions of Madness. Just
I love that game.
It's so much better than House on Haunted Hill. It's like playing. To me, it's like playing Halloween. It's like not the trick or treating, but like you want that scariness. You dim the lights. You have like a light just over the keeper's head, and he just reads. And I get into it, so like I was reading all crazily and doing all the different stuff. I just love that game.
Put on thematic music.
I do sometimes. Not at Roy's house because we have to stream everything. But at friend's house, I definitely put on thematic music. Or I don't have a lot of thematic music for horror stuff, so you just find a Pandora radio station for
Nox
horror.
Arcana station.
Nox
Yeah.
Arcana?
Yeah.
Hey, I love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is it Nox like KNOX or just like
NOX.
NOX
Nox
Arcana?
Arcana on Pandora or on Spotify. That is the station for any Lovecraftian game.
Oh, nice.
Hey, I'm totally into. Is it a lot of classical, like freaky, like instrumental stuff?
Yeah, it's spooky, instrumental, atmospheric, like a little bit of that sort of industrial reverb.
Yeah.
There's no lyrics. It's just atmospheric. It's
Okay.
spooky and sinister and intense. It's fun.
I love that. Absolutely love that type of music. I listen to it just normally myself anyway, so
We do theme music every time we're playing board games. We do theme music, and like
it just makes it so much better, right?
it can be tough with Euros. Like Don and I will sit down and we'll play a game of Trois, and we're like, I don't know, like French Baroque, or like put on organ music or something. Like you gotta get into the mood.
Honey, I'm feeling some harpsichord. Let's put that on.
So, but anyway, Mansions of Madness, awesome game, love it.
It's a good one.
Awesome.
It is.
Well, I guess I'll talk about Cosmic Encounter now.
Yeah.
We
Boy.
played a game of Cosmic Encounter, 6 players, so super crazy. Cosmic Encounter is a game where everybody has a different alien race, and you're trying to get 5 colonies on other players' planets. It's all about negotiation and shifting alliances and trying to figure out how to manipulate the cards and powers you're given to sneak yourself in a win. It's pretty fun because you draw from this Destiny deck, and you randomly attack a specific player. And then each side gets to pick alliances, and they can choose who they're asking to come along with them. And both sides can ask the same person, and they have to decide which side they're actually going to side with. If they're going to decide with the defense and hopefully win and get more cards, or they're going to decide with the offense and win and get a colony on that planet also. So it's all about trying to figure out how to manipulate the game in a way you can get yourself onto the winning side, and also use your powers properly and try to balance all the crazy powers in this game, because there's all sorts of crazy stuff that might seem overpowered, but the players themselves have to try to balance it out. And if you want to spend time, like an hour, fighting and yelling with your friends on who should be added to this encounter or not, then Cosmic Encounter is the game to play. Yeah.
Sounds exciting.
It is exciting. I was telling someone online, this game came out like before I was born, and like there's still a ton of people playing it. It's Tom Vassel's like #1 game, and Shut Up and Sit Down has it as like their #1 game also. So like there's these like popular reviewers who like love this game that's super old. I wish that I had started playing it like sooner, but those copies don't look nearly as nice as the one currently out.
No, and I still got to take this opportunity to say, for pure negotiation, Cosmic Encounter is great, but I'm the boss. I can't believe you haven't played
I
it.
thought you were going to talk about another hockey guy. Like, oh, wait, there's this one guy. Listen, it totally
Sidebar.
goes with Cosmic Encounters. So there's
I
this
got the
one
space hockey
guy
story.
who's not white that plays hockey, kind of like the alien races. Yeah, no,
Aw,
Messed
too much.
up.
hockey's like 60 years behind. I know. It's too bad.
Hockey is bad.
But yeah, I'm
Yeah,
the boss. Roy, not just Roy. Are all you guys going to Gen Con?
Yes.
Okay, well, good. Then we're all gonna play I'm the boss at Gen Con, and then you can
Good.
compare I'm the
I can't
boss
wait to
versus
get
Cosmic
bullied.
Encounter for
I
negotiations.
Get bullied.
am terrible at negotiations.
Also, we need 2 more people because the game's best with 6. So you guys go out and recruit some people.
We've got a posse.
Okay,
Yeah,
You got a
got like
crew?
a whole group of people saying
that's not good for me.
Yeah.
Maybe I should bring my people so that get my entourage.
Nice.
I mean, I don't know if you've listened to our show, Josh, but we're up to 15 listeners now. We're kind of a
Holy
big deal.
smokes!
Yeah,
Woo!
we're doing quite well.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Gray Fox has 15 followers now. Also, so you're a good company.
It's the same 15
I'm
people.
not
We've been
saying
cross
that
promoting.
we help contribute to that because you were on our show and now your sales have gone up, but I am saying we actually did do that. It's all because of this.
Well, thanks for that.
Awesome. Well, that was Cosmic Encounter. So I guess we should go ahead and get into our topic for tonight, which is Gray Fox Games.
Yeah.
So Josh, tell us a little bit about Gray Fox Games.
Gray Fox Games puts out awesome games. Gray Fox Games is
Mic drop. Mic drop.
no. Gray Fox is an up and coming publisher. I used to say small, but I don't really feel like we're small anymore. I mean, we're up to more than 2 people, just barely. But I mean, we also have a growing line. So we started by putting out a couple Kickstarter projects, and now we've since put out some games that went the more traditional route, and we've got a decent catalog of 8 games going now, and we have some great titles. Champions of Midgard has been doing really well, and people are having a lot of fun with that. So we just did our 3rd printing of that. Martin Wallace's Study in Emerald 2nd edition has been getting good buzz. Deception Murder in Hong Kong was a huge hit during con season, so we got more of those on the way. So I don't know. Gray Fox Games is an up-and-coming publisher devoted to putting out quality games that sort of run the gamut of themes and mechanics. We have a pretty diverse selection in our catalog, and by and large, we think our games are really approachable. They're strategic games that are designed for the hobby market, but we also try to put out games that you can bring to a family game night and that you can teach to people who aren't necessarily hardcore gamers. And Deception and Murder in Hong Kong certainly fits that bill, and we think Champions of Midgard does as well. And Study in Emerald's a little bit on the heavier side, but I've had some fun teaching that to people who aren't huge into the hobby as well.
That's awesome. We've pretty much covered our current lineup. Do you have any update on I know you guys have had a lot of these really hot games and they're selling out so fast, and they're hard to keep in stock. Do you have any current update on some of the games? I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I wish I could get Deception and stuff like that.
Yeah, those are good problems to have.
Exactly.
That our games are popular, and we certainly are trying to get them out as fast as possible to get them into people's hands. So I was looking at the factory proof for the next print run of Deception just the other day, so that will be shipping any day, so arriving in 6 to 8 weeks. Champions of Midgard is in that same boat. I think maybe literally they will be on the same boat. So both of those games are coming back into stock. They have had new printings done. Champions of Midgard is in its 3rd printing. Deception is in its 2nd. And they will be hitting the shores of the U.S. in probably 6 weeks.
So if you're listening to this later on down the road, make sure to check it out because it's probably already back in stock.
Yeah, April 2016, late April, is when we're expecting the arrival of these things. And of course, as we get a specific release date for them, we'll put that up on our website, we'll send it out in our newsletter, we'll tweet about it, put it on our Facebook. I don't know, anywhere that you go and see a Gray Fox thing, we'll tell you about it there.
That's crazy.
And if you don't go to see Gray Fox things, you should come sign up for our stuff. And I mean, you can come back and watch the podcast, but it'll be out of date by then.
You know that people are enjoying the game when it just continues to sell out over and over again, and people are like, oh my gosh.
it's really exciting. Like, we, like I said, I wear a lot of hats at Gray Fox, and I check the customer service emails. Most of that is me, and so it's exciting to get. We get an email basically every day from somebody who says, "Hey, I just found out about Deception Murder in Hong Kong, and seems really neat. And where can I get it?" And like, it's so hard to tell people like. You probably can't right now. Like, some people are like, "Hey, I saw this on eBay for $80. Should I buy that?" And I'm like, if you want to play it today, that's pretty much your only option. But if you can wait, 2 months, we can probably do better by you.
You're like, it's an amazing game. Keep the hype real. It's coming back out.
Yeah, and it is, and it'll be here in time for con season. We'll certainly have them at Gen Con, and that's the place where a lot of people, I think, find out about games like this and play games like this. I mean, because Deception is kind of a social game that functions well with large groups. Like, people have a lot of fun playing it at cons, and like the hype for it really started building at the end of con season, and it just went like that. So everybody who played it at cons last year and didn't back the Kickstarter of it wanted a copy and couldn't find one. But we are, of course, making more, and they will have them for this year's con season.
Which I am totally that guy, because after playing Matt's copy, it is by far Deception Murder in Hong Kong. Your other games are great too, but Deception is easily my favorite social deduction party game. I just absolutely love it because it takes it a step further where Roy's a killer. Sure, every single time Roy's a killer. But how did he do it? And so it gives the killer that chance where, like, One Night Ultimate Werewolf and Resistance and other things, once you kind of got him pinned, you can work around it. You know what I'm saying? But in this game, it's just so amazing. And everyone has to pay attention. It's just... And I really like the idea of the bullets that you guys put down, too. I mean, it's just a really cool idea, really well put together. Very simple, just... I try to buy a copy.
It takes like
$88 right now
to explain it to somebody.
Yeah, it's so simple to explain.
Yeah.
But it's like
the puzzle
it's so
aspect of having a correct solution, right? Not just a killer, but like it's basically. I mean, I think it's a throwback for people. Like when I was talking about this game, and I'm like, it's kind of resistance meets Mysterium,
right?
Right, like it's Mysterium with a traitor, right? You're trying to convey this evidence without talking and trying to get to a particular solution. And I kept making that comparison, but then when I would talk about it to people who didn't know hobby games, obviously you can't use that comparison.
Yeah.
And I would describe the mechanics to people, and they go, "So it's like Clue," and I go, "No, it's not." Actually, yeah, it kind of is. Like, there's a solution. It's like the answer in the envelope, and you have to figure it out. So, like, it resonates with people on so many levels. Yeah. Like, it harkens back to games that you played as a kid. It references current games. It still feels fresh. It's still a lot of fun, and like, it was so interesting to have that touchstone. Like, I think we do this in the hobby gaming sphere a lot, where we try and explain what we do to people who are not into it, and like invariably somebody goes like, you describe something and they're like, "So it's like Monopoly," and like that's the go-to line, and everybody's like, "Oh God, I'm sick to death of hearing that." But like when people find that touchstone and it's true and it resonates and it's like a good thing, you're like, "Holy smokes, yeah, it is kind of like that," and they're like, "Cool, I like that," and you're like, "Neat."
Yeah, buy my game.
I like how it's like a deduction game with like a little bit deeper deduction, It's like not just who it is and that's the end, but like it's like, okay, well, they were telling us these clues as a forensic scientist. What should we look at? And then on the other side as the murderer, I had really fun one game. They had figured me out as the murderer, and I was just like, "So what? I'm the murderer. What are you going to do about it?" And literally they couldn't pin down the two things that I had. They guessed wrong because they had wasted their guess on like a couple other things. They knew one for sure, and the other one they were trying to like narrow it down and figure it out.
So you got in their heads.
Yeah, and
it was like confidential paperwork and elevator.
Oh, it was locked room. It was locked room, which is pretty hard sometimes because it's like, what's the cause of death? Is it suffocation, starvation? Like, what is the exact cause of death? And then
the other clue was
playing the game a lot more. I see how to be the murderer even better because like paying attention to what everybody has on the board beforehand like plays a big deal in being a good murderer. It's like I played one game where I was the murderer and I lost really bad, but there was like a bajillion poison things, and I had like some poisonous needles, but there was like snake bite and all these other crazy poisonous things, and I did that, and the first thing that they did was the cause of death was poisoning, and they looked around and like everybody had one. They're just like, oh my gosh, that narrows down nothing, but they still ended up. Rob's always pointing fingers at me, so they still got me.
Every time.
I learned that I'm terrible as the murderer in that game. Just real bad.
I'm not so good at the murder.
It's real fun when Matt's the murderer, because it's just like, we got him.
Because I'm just like, man, there's no way somebody can connect these two things. And then immediately, like, what comes out, like, just the first two, they're like, we've connected it. And then, like, Roy's just staring at me. He's like, it's you. And I'm like, yeah, I mean...
Matt isn't very good at lying when you look him directly in the face and ask him.
Like
that's a
on the
good
plus
trait.
side, you guys know something about your friends now. Like
Yeah.
like Matt, you're never gonna have to help him go on the lam. Like you're gonna be fine. Like he's gonna call you. He's gonna like, bro, I need help, and you're gonna go, what's wrong? And he's like, I need someone to help me move the couch. And you're like, okay, fine. And Roy's gonna call you, and he's like, bro, I need help, and you're just gonna have to go, nah, man, I'm busy. And hang up. Oh, he's done.
Yes, I accidentally killed my neighbor. Oh, no.
I've done a little bit too good as the bad guy or the traitor in these different games that every
Yes.
single time Rob rages. Even when I'm super good, I'm so good the other times that it doesn't help.
It
Can't
doesn't.
be trusted.
I don't trust him at all. In fact, I'm not even sure that's Roy we're looking at right now.
And it was me all along. No, I'm just kidding.
Bro, what if seriously if like all of a sudden you did that and like Scotty was sitting there and like, hello.
Or a werewolf. No, I'm just kidding.
Bro, make me a werewolf.
Awesome. So, I know you guys do a lot of your stuff in North America, but what is some of the things that Gray Fox is doing to expand into global markets?
Yeah, I mean that's it's honestly one of our biggest hurdles right now. Last year was the first year that Gray Fox was at Essen as a publisher, and that was a big deal for us, and we made a lot of contacts there. So after last year's Essen, we now have a couple people doing distribution for us in the UK, a couple people doing distribution for us in Germany. And so we do have a contact in China who helps us with Kickstarter fulfillment, but he isn't actually like a full-time distributor, and the Chinese board game market is not really booming anyway. But we have, a couple small distributors from all over the world interested in our products to put stuff out. Sometimes we're selling directly to retailers, but it's one of the things that we're going to be focusing on moving forward, and particularly at Essen this year, with our second year and a little bit of experience under our belts. We hope to have more people to run the booth, so we can spend more time talking to distributors and setting up larger networks. But yeah, we have North America, certainly the U.S. decently covered. We have a couple partnerships in Canada, and we've just started branching out worldwide. So hopefully in a year's time, we'll be able to get our games out to a lot more people in a lot more of their local shops. One of the things that we look at is we're not just looking for distribution partnerships, which is great, but we're also looking for companies, publishers, who want to do localized versions of our games. So when you look at something like Captain's Wager, for example, every card in that game has a unique ability. So there's 20 crew cards and then 15 items. So you have 35 basically paragraphs of text.
Right.
So it's one thing for me to be able to put that game in a German shop, and certainly hobby gamers generally speak some amount of English because they're into the hobby, and a lot of Europeans do speak English in a way that most Americans do not speak another language, and that's great. But they take it to their game groups, and their game groups don't necessarily want to have to work at translating to play something. They want to play it in their native language. So we're working both on getting distribution of our games, but also getting publishers who want to do localized version of our games and basically do a translation and then release it to their local market. And right now we've got one publisher working to do that for Champions of Midgard in South America, in Brazil.
That's awesome.
And we've spoken to a lot of other people worldwide about doing localized versions, but haven't got anything squared away on that front yet.
Awesome.
I had never thought about that being an issue up until right now with
Yeah.
board games. I don't know why it never occurred to me that it's like, hey, maybe English isn't everywhere.
Yeah, and so many Euro games, use a lot of symbology. Like a lot of games that come out in the European hobby game market. I know that Queen Games is especially good at putting out games that are essentially completely language independent. Like it used to be, I don't know that I've bought a Queen game recently, but it used to be you'd buy a Queen game and you'd open the box and there'd just be 8 rule books in there.
Right.
Because all the components are the same.
Yeah.
But it's something that we think about now when we're developing games. It's actually something that I did sort of as a creative exercise with Champions of Midgard not too long ago when we were rewriting the rule book. I thought, well, what if I could convert all of this stuff to symbology? What if I could just get rid of the language? And we came up with a model for that. And I don't think it's perfect, and it certainly needs to be tested. But now that we have other projects we want to get out in time for Gen Con, it's kind of on the back burner, but it's something that we can now hand to international publishers, and they say, I have an interest in localizing your game, and we can go, well, we've done this much, and if you want to use this iconography or these translations, go for it, and if you want to do your own, you can do that as well. But it's certainly something that we can pay attention to going forward, minimizing the amount of language-dependent components in a game so that it's more easily accessible to international players. Some games you can't or you don't want to because you look at something and you are trying to explain something particularly subtly, and if you try and do it in iconography, it can end up being more confusing than if you just stuck with the text. And so for those circumstances, we will use text as needed and just tell an international publisher, yeah, you guys will have to localize it, but we're going to pay enough attention that hopefully we go, well, there's only 10 cards that you need to translate and everything else is language independent, as opposed to just handing them a box full of text and being like, well, good luck, guys.
Have fun.
Yeah, a lot of times when you see a game with just piles and piles of iconography, it's because that's what they're trying to do, is make it as language independent as possible. So they only have to translate just a little bit of stuff. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah. But then people basically have to learn a new language to play the game. So
yeah. And as long as it doesn't have as many symbols as like Race for the Galaxy does, I think you'll be okay.
Race for the Galaxy is always the go-to example.
Right.
Like, I love that game. But like, it resonated with me right away, and it took me a while to realize that like that doesn't happen with everybody. Because like I would try and teach it to people, and just I'd really hype the game of how much I loved it, and people would play it and they just have a miserable experience. Like you just feel like an idiot. You play it once and you're like, I don't know what any of this stuff does. So I had to start warning people when we play Race to the Galaxy. I'd be like, look, you're going to hate this game the first 5 times you play it, but then you might like it.
I was going to say, I've played it maybe 3 times, and each time, like, we start the game, and I just look at Roy, and I'm like, hey, man, what does this do again? And, like, I have that little, like, sheet in front of me that's supposed to help, and I'm just sitting here looking at the sheet going, I still don't understand.
Are you like me, Josh, that you can just literally just go to the game now and explain? Like, I know all the icons.
Yeah.
Like, I figured it out like that. Like, but I've had players, like, that's one of the only games I've told this before, but that I've literally had someone just get up and walk away from the game because they got an icon wrong and it screwed up their strategy. And they had played something improperly, and we said, hey, man, you can't actually play that. And he's like, well, I spent 3 turns trying to build up to do this, and now I can't. I'm done. Just because the iconography, like, it was too hard. It's like, well, that has a little red border around it. It's not black. You can't discard cards to play that. You have to have warfare. And he's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
So.
No, and that's fair. I mean, like, the cheat sheet for that game is daunting. And, like, I mean, the people inside Grey Fox are avid hobbyists, or people who play a lot of games and love games, and certainly we do our best to take the experiences that we've had in gaming and identify times when they were frustrating and try and remove those when we make our own games. I mean, that's a lot of my job as a developer, is to not just double check a designer's math and not just make sure that a mechanic can't be broken, but to also like give it to playtest groups, oversee playtests, send it out to blind playtesting, and then go, is this fun? Like, not just did people say it was fun, but when I watch them playing, are they like, I mean, is smoke coming out of their ears when I show them the iconography? Because at the end of the game, if they're like, yeah, that was fun, I don't know if that's just because you're really dedicated to learning a particular game, or if it was intuitive or what. Like, you gotta find that out from people. And with Race for the Galaxy, like, it's not like you hand somebody a cheat sheet like this. You're like, and here's your player board, and that's just a brief explanation of some of the rules. And people are like,
It's funny because every time I like have that game, I want to put it in this like tiny little box. I'm like, all you need is these little bitty cards, and then I try to teach it to someone without that cheat sheet, and I'm just like, wait, this doesn't work for normal people. Like, you need that sheet to at least be able to look at and get like a grasp a little bit about some of this stuff. But like for me, it's like all I need is this tiny deck. But it's like, oh, they need like the codex of how to actually read the cards.
Yeah, and like it's a testament to the publisher and to the designer that they included that aid, because you really do need it. But like even with it, like it's a game that has a learning curve. It has a barrier to entry, and we do our best to eliminate that as much as possible without really sacrificing the strategic experience.
Yeah. Oh man, Race is one of those games I'm very unsure as to how people, like, if you just go into a hobby shop, never seen it before, and like, yeah, this looks fun, and like take it home, like, how do you learn? Is it just like a month of just pouring through the rulebook, going, I just don't know, I have no idea, or do you just watch like
surely
4 hours worth of YouTube videos?
Surely it takes dedication. Like, it's like, even as somebody who's been in the hobby for as long as I have, like, when I get a game, like, I obviously do my research first. My limited gaming time and spare time is I only want to spend it on games that I know I'm going to like, and I read rules ahead of time, and I get stuff, and like, when I open up a game and I set it up for the first time, if it doesn't click with me, that's an immensely frustrating experience, because I'm like, man, how much time have I devoted into this already, and I haven't even gotten to play yet? How am I going to teach it to a group of people who isn't necessarily as hobby savvy as I am? And like, I don't know. I mean, like, I've had the experience that Roy is describing with other games. Trois is one of those games that just has so many interlocking mechanisms that when you explain it to people, you're like, okay, there's 12 things you need to know, and you need to know them all simultaneously. So I'm going to tell them to you consecutively, but they're not going to make any sense until the end. And that's one of those games that, like, I got halfway through the rules, and then my wife got up and walked away from the table. She went, I'm not playing this game.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, she came back, and now it's one of her favorites, but like, you can't expect that everybody is going to want to go through that in order to get to the fun part.
Yeah, for me, like, when I learned how to play Race for the Galaxy, like, I learned it with my dad. Like, literally, we sat there and watched YouTube videos, went through the rulebook, watched more YouTube videos to sit there and try to figure out how to do it. And we got a lot of the rules wrong, but sometimes with certain games, especially when they're difficult ones, you have to play it wrong a couple times before you get it right.
Yeah, I honestly believe that I've never played a game right the first time, and I have games that I've, like, some of my favorite games that, like, I break out and play with people, and they go, "That's not how that goes."
I've seen that happen before. I'm just like, wait, like,
I've
played this game. I've played this game for like 5 years this way. Holy crap!
Yeah. And they're like, "No, it doesn't." And you're like, "Look, I'll show you. It says right here in the." Oh my God, you're right.
And then you have to make that decision of, like, when you go to teach it to more people, do you teach it the right way, or do you just continue to do it wrong because you have
Damn it,
so
Roy,
much
you
fun?
always teach it the right way.
It depends on what it is. So
You got to be willing to accept sometimes that everything you know is wrong.
I just like to think that I'm a better game designer than the designer himself, so I fixed it. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll be awaiting your prototype.
Nice. Awesome. Well, let's shift into what games are coming out at Gray Fox Games. As you guys can see, this nice overlay, if you're on the YouTube or on the Twitch stream right now, it's Seven Ronin. Can you tell us anything about that game, Josh?
Boom.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, Seven Ronin is an awesome little two-player asymmetrical game. We picked it up at Gen Con this year. It's originally put out by a Polish publisher, Badger's Nest, and Polish designers. And it's this tense little asymmetric two-player battle based kind of loosely on Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. So if you guys I'll give anybody who's not familiar with the film, is that basically there's these bandits and they're trying to steal these food supplies, overrun a village, and the village hires these samurai to basically fend off the bandits. And it's this kind of war of attrition between the bandits and the samurai. And so the same is true here, except the bandits are ninjas. And so they took a little bit of license there, maybe just because it's more fun to be ninjas. But one player takes on the role of the ninjas in Seven Ronin, and they just have this horde of ninjas. They start with 40 ninjas, and the other player takes on the role of these seven Ronin, who are defending the village. And so the game plays 8 rounds. Thematically, the ninja are coming down from their stronghold to raid the food supplies before they retreat back to their stronghold for the winter. And if the Ronin player can basically outlast that 8-day assault, the snows start to fall, and then the ninja have to retreat, and the Ronin player wins. Okay. If the ninja player can kill all 7 of the Ronin, or they can occupy a majority of the spaces on the board, then they overrun the village and they win. And so it's a 30-minute tight little game of essentially, I don't know, it's almost pure psychology, right? Like I'll bust out one of the pieces and show you here. So the main board is these 10 locations, nice. And every player has their own board that they keep behind a screen that mirrors the main board. And so the Ronin player every round will assign their Ronin to the 7 areas that they think that the ninja player is going to attack, and then the ninja player will assign some escalating amount of ninjas to a certain portion of the board as well. And so after the assignment has been done, you reveal, all your stuff comes to the board. All of the Ronin have a unique special ability, and they execute those. They go to combat, and so ninjas basically just pile on damage to the Ronin, and then any village spaces that are still occupied by ninjas, they get to take the ability of that space in the village. So each player has essentially different skills they're going to execute every turn. You got to try and figure out what is most valuable to your opponent at any given time. Like certain Ronin can only use their power if they're somewhere where there are ninjas. Some certain Ronin can only use their ability if they're somewhere where there aren't any ninjas. So like one of them is a healer, and if the healer is being attacked, he doesn't get to heal anybody. So the Ronin player is trying to figure out, well, where aren't there going to be any ninjas? Like maybe the fields aren't valuable to them this turn because they need to get a particular ability, so I can send my healer there. And the ninja player has to figure out, well, am I going to try and hunt down his healer to eliminate him, or am I going to try and take something that I think he'll leave undefended in order to get an ability? So it's clever little back and forth. The first game, having to learn the 7 Ronin abilities and then the 10 spaces on the board is a little bit of a learning curve, but after that, it becomes pretty fast. It plays in about 30 minutes, and it's a lot of fun.
That sounds awesome. I love the games where you're like trying to get into other players' heads and try to figure out what moves they're going to take, and it sounds like there's a lot of that. It almost sounds like simultaneous hidden movement, but I know you're just like moving around in different spaces on the board, but just that whole mindset of trying to figure out where they're going, to figure out where you need to put your people or where you need to not put your people, sort of thing, seems really cool.
Yeah, it's remarkably thematic for a game where the ninjas are represented by cubes and the Ronins are represented by discs, but like a narrative unfolds in this game, right? Like it starts with the ninja player sort of assigning just a couple of guys, and the Ronin player tends to fend them off pretty easily, but it escalates. And as you reach the middle point of the game and Ronin start dying off and the ninja supplies are dwindling, it becomes really tense, and you get to see like, your characters die off and you feel for them. You're like, oh God, I lost my sword fighter, and now I'm going to have to play more defensively, or I lost my horseman and now I'm less versatile. Whereas the ninja player is going like, well, oh my God, I got to take the action to get more ninjas because he's killed so many of my guys that I'll never last to the winter or whatever. So it tells a neat little story, and it unfolds a little bit differently every game. So it's a lot of fun. So that is upcoming. We're putting the finishing touches on upgrading some of the components right now, and then it will go to print. We hope to have that in about 8 weeks, and that will be up on our website for pre-order sometime within the next week or two, and anybody who orders directly from Gray Fox Games will get a special promo to go with the game as a thank you for supporting us directly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that is the next thing on the agenda that is closest to being finished. We got a couple other games upcoming. Waste Riders is one that we've been working on for a while. It's a post-apocalyptic vehicular combat game.
That's the one with the really crazy, cool-looking motorcycle pieces, right?
Yes, that is that one. So we've been developing that for about a year and a half now. and it's out in blind playtesting right now. Just getting sort of the final feedback on it. And seeing if everybody likes it as much as we like it. It's kind of King of Tokyo-esque. It has that push your luck dice mechanic, but it also has this board, a series of different maps that requires movement. So like imagine King of Tokyo with where Tokyo mattered, right? Rather than it just being a space where you are, it's a battlefield, and so your location in the battlefield is relevant. You need to get your motorcycles to different places, to hit checkpoints, to shoot at different people, ramp up your power to get bigger weapons and take shots at your enemies. And so that game's been testing really well, and we've been having a lot of fun with that. So that is on the horizon. We've got another game, a treasure hunter themed game that we're working on that is a reimagining of Alia Iacta Est, which is an older, basically dice assignment Euro game by Jeff Allers and Bernd Einstein from Iron Games. And so you can look up Alia Iacta Est on Board Game Geek. It's this fun little dice placement game, but we've taken it and worked with the designers to develop it further. We're retheming it and re-releasing it with some new mechanics and some new buildings, and basically just expanding it to make it a bigger, meatier, more exciting kind of dice chucking Euro-ish treasure hunters game, which is a lot of fun. So that's also in the final stages of playtesting right now. And perhaps most excitingly, we have London Dread, which will hopefully be here in time for Gen Con. So we've been working with the guys from Plotmaker Games on that since BGG Con 2014. Nice. And the game it's this fascinating, immersive Victorian-era co-op game where everybody plays an investigator, and you're going through a story. And the story basically has 3 chapters. Every round of this game has 3 chapters. So like the first, well, beyond the intro scenario, the first full story in the game is called The Caped Killer. And it's kind of this Jack the Ripper type scenario. There's a killer on the loose, and everybody, based on their own personal backstory, has a reason for trying to track down this killer. And so every story, there's basically a plot arc. Like in the beginning, you're trying to figure out the identity of the killer. And then in the second chapter, you're trying to save all these potential victims. And then in the third chapter, you're trying to track down his lair so that you can face him. And so it's this co-op game that's got it's got these story elements. It's got, mechanically, there's 2 phases in the game. There's a timed planning phase and then an execution phase. So every player has a clock and then a series of action tokens. And as you play the game, you're revealing these cards, you're hunting for these plot points in the story, and then trying to assign your investigators where in the city to go. And so they basically, as you encounter these dangerous events in the city, you have to choose whether to resolve them or whether to let them unfold and basically raise the dread level in the town. So like if there's a murder and there's like a body in the street, you can say, well, our investigators are going to take care of that so it doesn't send the city into a panic. Or you can go, well, it's much more important for us to chase down the Cape Killer, so we're going to let the townspeople freak out about that while we go kill somebody else.
So there's going to be like some little kid like poking its eye. Like
poke it with a stick and see what happens. So I don't know. The game is really immersive because it's... As you play through these scenarios, there are these key events that you encounter. They're called plot cards. And as you encounter them, the characters that you send to face these events basically make checks from a deck of what we call their personality cards. So they reach back into their history and see what skill set they bring to the challenge. And based on what they draw and the things they face so far, they can boost their capability to face these challenges. And every challenge has this range of effects that you can kind of tank it and something bad happens, or you can do okay and like the result is okay, or you can blow it away and get some real bonus, some boon to help your characters as they go on. And so when you get to the end of one of these stories, the level of dread in the city becomes a measure of how effectively you've dealt with the problems. and it directly converts to being the strength of the antagonist. So when you get in this particular chapter to the end and you face the Cape Killer, his hit points are equal to the amount of dread that you've had. So if you successfully navigated and planned and hit all these plot points, you'll find him fairly easy to defeat. And if you did a poor job cleaning up after his messes, of saving the witnesses, of tracking him down, you'll find that he's much stronger and much more harder to defeat. And every end game basically ends in a fight to the death between the heroes and the antagonist of that particular chapter. And so while those core mechanics are true through every story, each story has its own unique mechanic that switches up how you play the game. And so in that first scenario, the thing that is at stake is you don't know what traits the Cape Killer has, and by successfully uncovering those early, you can try and hunt down weapons that will be most effective against him. And if you don't uncover that identity early, then you need to collect a range of weapons to be able to effectively fight him. And so each story has a mechanic like that will make you consider the way you, the choices you make in that chapter differently, because there will be different risks on your way to fight the antagonist.
Sounds
awesome.
It does.
I love cooperative games, and I love games with lots of theme and story. So sounds good.
I feel like I'm just slowly developing like a like and a desire for games that are like that tell a story, kind of like the time stories mechanic, where it's like the core game is the same, like the gameplay is pretty much the same from thing to thing, but they always have rotating chapters that you can like play and kind of delve into that's very thematic and sort of different. I just like games that are modular like that, because I mean, not only they're super fun to play, but I imagine they're very hard to design, in that you have to get a core concept and then make it work with different things that you can plug in and out. So
how many scenarios are going to be in the game? Like how many different types of like stories or different types of
in the base game, there's going to be essentially 3.5 stories. So there's an intro scenario, which is essentially one chapter that introduces you to the mechanics of the game and basically gives you a full game experience condensed into one chapter.
One game's a real cliffhanger.
So the idea is that each of them has an arc, right? So there's the story and there's 3 chapters, and each chapter has a particular goal, right? And then you face the antagonist. The intro scenario is one chapter, and then you face the antagonist so that people can learn the core mechanics of the game, and it acts as a prelude to the first story. So when you play this intro chapter, it's kind of like it comes out of nowhere, you follow up on these clues, and then the end of that scenario is you find out about story 1, and then you can segue into story 1. Mechanically, the stories are designed to be replayable, so it's not quite that time stories mechanic where like once you know it you can't really do it again. They're meant to be immersive, but probably the first time you play they are most immersive. And so what we've noticed in our testing is that when people play the first time, when they get to their story points, they flip over their cards and they read all the stories and they do the flavor text and people really get into it. And then when I ask playtesters to play again, because I want them to try and break the game, the second time they're like, and so what do we need to get our skill check here? We got it. So I think that it definitely allows for sort of a range of player types, that the mechanics make for a solid game, regardless of whether or not you have a group that really likes to get in and kind of role play a little bit, or whether they just would like to advance the game from point A to point B. And I have players in my group that sort of meet both of those criteria, so I know. But as you might have guessed from the theme music aspect of things, I prefer to be on the reading the flavor text side of things, even if it runs the game a couple minutes longer.
Yeah,
I grew up playing role-playing games and all that stuff, so I love the fact that all these different companies are coming out with awesome like story theme-rich games, because that's like my sort of thing, as being like a thematic fanatic. I'm all about these games with lots of storytelling meat.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of all that stuff too. I mean, almost to an extreme sometimes. Like I love Tales of the Arabian Nights.
Yeah.
But it's not a game.
No.
Yeah.
Right. It's a choose your own adventure like group activity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that, and I don't want to play it every day. but we I mean, it's one of the things that we focus on at Gray Fox is that theme is really important to us. Like, we want our games to have them, but we don't necessarily want them to define our games. So we like to make our games as thematic as possible while also being as solid mechanically as possible.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about Champions of Midgard is like it is a worker placement Euro game along the lighter lines, but like it feels so thematic when you're fighting off monsters and like you need the food to be able to go on the voyage and you have to like rent a ship or build a ship to be able to take it there, and then you're fighting these big monsters. It feels thematic even though you're just trying to gain victory points and figure out the best way to do it. It tells a story of what your Vikings are doing along the way. So I love how you guys do that.
We tried to integrate that as much as possible, and it's nice to hear that it comes through, because often you get a blind spot as a designer, publisher, or developer. Once the project has been yours for a certain amount of time, you are unable to respond to it objectively. We can sit around the office and we can like high five each other all day and talk about how strong the theme is, but then we put it out, people go, well, yeah, it's a victory point game. You're like, drat! and nobody has really said that about Champions of Midgard, and it warms our hearts that people get into it.
That's awesome.
I'll make a little side note here to tell you that that one of my projects right now is a Champions of Midgard expansion.
Awesome.
Yeah, it certainly won't be ready in time for Gen Con, but it is in development, and so far it's looking pretty good.
Is there any interesting new things you guys can spoil for us, or?
I won't tell you about any of the mechanics.
Okay.
Because
just tell us about the theme, man.
Those are still in flux, but I'll tell you that that the afterlife is certainly going to play a part in here. So the expansion will certainly have something to do with Valhalla.
Awesome.
Nice. So when your dice die, things can happen? Oh, snap.
Maybe.
They come back as ghost die and drink mead.
That's awesome.
Here's to that.
Yes, very much so.
Awesome. So it seems like Gray Fox Games has a huge variety of all these different board games and different types of genres. You got social deduction and like worker placement, and like you're making story games, all sorts of crazy stuff. Do you guys work hard to make sure you have a very diverse line of products?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do, and I don't know that we intentionally set out to do that, right? Like when we started looking for games for Gray Fox, I don't think we went like, well, we need a social deduction and we need a worker placement and we need like an area control game. But when we see designs, we're certainly mindful of. We're certainly mindful of like what's already out there, not only what's already in our line, but what other people are doing as well, because we want the games that we do to feel fresh. And like I gotta we have an interloper.
I was gonna say I saw a tail and was like, I'm pretty sure that's a cat.
When we came out with Champions of Midgard, we didn't know it was going to be the year of the Viking, and we'd been working on the game for a year and a half, and it was like a month before it released, and like all these other Viking games started coming out. We were like, oh no. But like we try to pick up games with interesting themes. We try to pick up games that we think people will be interested in, and we're certainly aware of what is in our line already, and we don't necessarily want to duplicate things that we have done before, because we want people who have become fans of our games to continue being interested in our games and feel like they're adding something new to their collection. Mm-hmm. So whenever we are looking at a game, we are both aware of what it does in the scope of the marketplace as a whole, but also where it fits into our line. And I've certainly looked at games over the past year where I've said, you know what, I think this is a good design, but I don't think it's right for our line, either because I don't see a way to theme it in a way that is going to be interesting enough or thematic enough for us to present it and have it fit with our vision for the games that we make, or because mechanically it had too much overlap with something that we've already done. And we would like our games that people are interested in to stand on their own for as long as possible, and that when somebody comes along with with another worker placement game with dice, and I look at Champions of Midgard, I have to go, is this game infinitely better than the thing that I have already? Because if it isn't, then it's not a good fit for us right now. And 10 years from now, maybe that will change, but today, yeah, every time we look at a game, every time we slot a game in, we want it to be different enough and exciting enough thematically and mechanically from what we already have to be an entry that people who already own our stuff can get excited about.
Awesome.
Like, Robert is looking pretty bored right now, so
I'm not bored. I'm
I
just.
get him excited about something. What's the name that we should next game that we should make, Rob? What do you want us to make?
Are you being serious? I would love for somebody. Well, I don't know. We're kind of making this game, but I would love a Friday the 13th theme type game.
I can't do it. I already have a horror game in my line. It's not a good fit. Sorry.
What if his is infinitely better?
Yeah.
Then we'll talk.
It's not. I promise you.
But no, sorry, I'm not. I'm not bored. I was listening. That was my listen face.
Don't be sorry. I was just giving you a gentle ribbing for fun. But honestly, if you're making a cool slasher flick game, when you have a prototype, you should come and show it to me because I grew up watching all those movies too. That'll be fun.
Well, it's not,
when you
it's
have
not
a
that I'm a
playtested
big fan of
prototype.
those. I'd play test our prototype right now if we all got together. It's not that I'm a
I
huge
need to
fan
draw it.
of it. Those movies are fun and they're cheesy or whatever. But we played Spectre Ops and I really enjoy Spectre Ops. And then I was like, man, what if you could do this? But it was like that campfire, Friday the 13th slasher, Jason getting everybody. And that's where that idea came. And it's copyrighted and published by Newman Games. So don't anybody steal it or take it. But anyway.
I think
no,
you
I
mean
think you guys
Matt
do a good
Robin
job.
games. No, I'm just kidding.
I like
okay.
war stuff. I like battle stuff because, like, I deal with people on such a regular basis where sometimes I just want to blow stuff up. So, you guys come out with a game where, like, all right, you have 10 tanks, I have 10 tanks, and raw, then yeah, I'll buy it next
All
year
right.
when I can afford it.
We're gonna get you a copy of Waste Riders so you can drive around on your sweet motorcycle with a lance and blow up your friends. But you got to also play Seven Ronin because you would love to behead some ninjas or
Yes.
overrun some samurai.
Yeah. Well, I will give you my address. Because we all don't live with Roy, so I know when you send him games and stuff like that. So I'll send you my address.
Can't I just stalk you on LinkedIn and get
Yeah.
your address that way?
I don't think my home address is on LinkedIn. If it is, I'm changing that.
It's a security loophole. It's an oversight.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Which I actually need to add some stuff on LinkedIn.
So, what conventions will Gray Fox be showing up at this year?
All of them.
Hype!
No, sadly, that's not true. And until we get some more people, I can only handle so many conventions and still get games developed to show to people at those conventions. We
Be
will
alive.
We will
Yeah.
definitely be at Gen Con.
Hype!
We will definitely be at Essen. We will definitely be at Dice Tower Con.
Okay.
And we will definitely be at BGG Con. So those ones I can commit to 100%.
I will tell you this. Go ahead right now. If there are any cons later on in the year, because that's usually when my season slows down, and you guys need people, I will run a booth and stuff like that for a free ticket. Now, I already have my ticket for Gen Con. I'm going to Gen Con as a fan and stuff like that. But, like, I don't mind selling the stuff and yelling at nerds all day, like, no, you can't get that, and stuff like that.
Very sure
Put that down.
no, you need to buy this!
They're like, don't put that in your mouth.
I mean, that's a good one, but generally we have a pretty laid-back approach to the booth. So if you could come and not yell at anybody, that'd be great.
And I can do that too. Like,
We are always looking for volunteers
Yeah.
for
A little more
conventions.
my style where I
So-
just say yeah a bunch.
yeah.
That would be perfect. I mean, we're
Man,
always
I
looking
already
for
got
volunteers. So
tired.
you guys, you can send me an email if you wanna volunteer at a booth later in the season. The people who watch can send an email, or they can sign up for our newsletter on GrayFoxGames.com, because when we go to conventions and we're looking for volunteers, we always send out an email blast that says, "Hey, we need volunteers, and this is what you get, and this is what you do."
And I'll be at the
so-
Gray Fox booth at Gen Con. Hype!
Yeah, Will. And yeah, we do still actually need a couple more volunteers for Gen Con. So if any of your followers have interest, three demo shifts where you hang out and and play games and teach games to people. Gets you a badge, a couple of T-shirts, and a copy of Seven Ronin. So,
What if you've already paid for your ticket though?
I mean, honestly, like we've worked out trade arrangements like that in the past. We do get tickets for people when they need them. If someone already has a ticket and they want to volunteer, we can figure something out, like extra copies of games or store credit to one of our partners or something. We got means and methods.
They got the hookups. Awesome.
Yeah, we're people who know people. I mean, we're Gray Fox. We're kind of a big deal.
You are kind of a big deal.
So since you know so much about the board gaming industry, do you think board gaming will continue to grow the way we've seen it in the past few years?
Yes.
Hype.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I don't think there's any end in sight for this hobby or for this industry. I think that we're on a trajectory like video games were, and perhaps in a condensed sort of time frame. Right? I mean, video games used to be a hobby for boys and a hobby for nerds, and now it's a hobby for everybody. Everybody plays video games. Pretty much everybody has a console in their home, and even if they don't, people play games on their phone, and like it's a much more diverse audience than it ever was, and that is true for board gaming as well. That the notion of gaming as the stereotyped hobby of like dudes in a basement playing D&D is gone and getting goner every day. I mean, the hobby is becoming more diverse. We have a lot more people playing all the time. We're seeing different people, different groups of people playing all the time, and I don't think there's any end in sight. And I think that thanks to all the different board game media out there, that there are podcasts and YouTube videos and shows like Tabletop, that this hobby is just getting more and more mainstream, and I don't think there's any end in sight. I think that we see it all the time with conventions in particular, that things that used to appeal to a particular niche, we see them blowing out and selling out like that. Dice Tower Con is sold out like that. BGG Con is sold out like that because the audience is getting so much bigger. It's not that the same audience is becoming more voracious to buy the tickets. There are just a lot more people who want to be involved in this hobby, and I think that's in no small part due to the fact that there's a ton of awesome media out there for board games now, and also that there's this huge rise of publishers. There's 1 million small publishers putting out 1 million different games now, and there are a lot more games than the marketplace, and a lot more people playing them, and a lot more people championing them to their friends. So I don't think there's any end in sight.
I think it was pretty funny. I saw like a blog post the other day that says, "Hey, it's cool to play board games now," and it's just like, I've been trying to tell everyone for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, you see stuff like that all the time, and I think that that's going to be true for a long time as well, because while the people who are in this hobby know that and have known it for quite some time, like it's a revelation to people. I mean, like imagine the way that it was a revelation to you when you played your first hobby game, like the first time you saw Catan or Carcassonne or something, and you were like, this is different from the games I played growing up. Like that was a transformative moment pretty much for everybody who's in this hobby now. They went like, oh my god, and then they found Board Game Geek, and then they built their collection, and everybody went from having a stack like this to having 5 shelves behind them. And like that awakening is happening all the time because like we proselytize for these games. I mean, they're things that we enjoy, and we want to share them with the people that we love, and we do, and then they enjoy them and they share them with the people that they love, and it just grows exponentially. But every day there's somebody who has that experience.
The funny
they
thing
play
is,
Carcassonne for the first time and they go, whoa, there's a whole new world.
Video games, you don't actually need other people to play with you, but like board games, you need more people to play with you. So they're kind of like self-promoting just because it's like, hey, you want people to play with you, so you tell people about how awesome they are so that they'll come and play the game with you, and they actually are awesome. So
yeah, I mean,
I got a question for you within a question.
Sure.
Did you hear the...
If this is about a story that I wrote in high school, I don't want to talk about it. We already covered this.
No, this is not about the strip or Incomparable You.
Yeah, Incomparable You. That was my first published magazine piece. People can look that up. That one's good.
February 1st, 2011. In Portland Magazine. Anyway.
Thanks, Karen, for the opportunity. I think she's a fan.
So here's my question. Question within a question. Did you hear about the news that Microsoft did today with the Xbox?
No.
It was yesterday.
Was that yesterday?
It was.
Okay, I read it today. So
Yeah.
they opened up to be cross-platform. So games like Call of Duty, they're opening it up on their end, where not only can you play with people on PC, but they're now also opening it up where if your buddy on PlayStation has it, you might be able to play with them. They're waiting for Sony to do that on their end to open it up cross-platform. But
Which they'll have
really,
to.
which of course they'll have to. But Microsoft was the first one to come to the table saying, you know what, we'll already do it. Here it is in writing. We're doing it. Let us know.
Nice.
Because of games like that, it does stink when somebody has a PlayStation, the other buddy has an Xbox, and you can't play together even though you own the same game. So here's my question to you within that question. Could you ever see the board game world do a cross-platform game type of thing where almost, and I don't know if Gray Fox is in a position to do something like that, but let's take Star Wars, the franchise. Fantastic game. Could you see another company teaming up to put their spin on it with Asmodee North America type of thing? Like, do you see
They
that
just
coming
buy
in
'em
in the
out.
future?
Just kidding.
Yeah.
I don't think I understand your question.
I don't understand your question either.
He's wondering if there could be collaboration between two companies on specific things. So, like, the example he was using is, could you design a game that would work very well in the Star Wars theme, and then Asmodee kind of grant you a temporary sort of use of their license, or publish it under the Asmodee thing with you guys being developers, like sort of collaborations between companies?
I think that happens a lot of times in the board game industry overall.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I honestly, I think that's a more complicated question than we can probably tackle right now. The answer is that no, I don't necessarily think that we would see a lot of collaboration
Thank you, Josh, for
between.
being on the show.
I don't think we'll see a lot of collaboration between publishers in that regard,
Yeah.
because if a particular publisher already owns the licensing rights to something, they've already had to pay for them, and they're going to value them particularly highly. If
Right.
somebody has a game design that fits particularly well in that universe, it makes a lot more sense for the designer to bring it right to the publisher who already has the license and try and get their royalty from it than it does for a publisher to try and lock down a game's mechanics and then try and get the license after the fact.
Well, listen,
specifically
I
with
only
something
asked
like
because
Star
you
Wars.
brought up video games, so like you're just amazing.
Let me answer
Also-
the question you didn't ask,
Okay.
which is that I do think there's going to be a lot more board gaming in the video game sphere as we go forward.
Oh yeah.
And that Xbox and PlayStation are going to be featuring a lot more ports of games that you can then play online with your friends, the way that you can already do in apps, or play around a tablet. Like, I remember when Small World came to the tablet, and it was like, I could play multiplayer Small World with friends on my iPad, and we would just do that to kill time at game night. Like, we can play a game of Small World in 20 minutes now. And I think that is going to happen a lot more, that as this hobby grows, you're going to see that hitting things like Xbox Live and PlayStation Network, where people are going to get their board game fix online when they can't be playing with their friends. But I don't think that tabletop games are ever going to suffer for that. I think the tactile experience and the face-to-face time really resonates with people, and I think it's a reason that this hobby has grown in a massively digital age, that people like getting around the table and sharing that time with people in person.
I concur.
Awesome.
Also, shout out for using the word proselytize. Made me real happy.
I'm here for you. That takes me
Yeah.
back to my writer roots. I'm
Yeah.
like, bam, vocabulary score.
Nice.
It's good time.
That's really bad because I'm trying to be a writer and I use big words like and the cat. Now sometimes, hold on.
Children's
sometimes-
writing is big, Rob.
Sometimes I put jumped. The cat jumped on the car.
And
To be fair, you could probably make a good amount of cash doing kids' books. So
yeah,
Even though my book is not a kid's book at all.
you can, but they're much harder to write than anybody gives them credit for.
yeah, one of the people I watch on Geek and Sundry did a Kickstarter for a kids' book called The ABCs of RPGs, and it's just like
yeah,
an
I saw
ABC book about all sorts of like RPG related stuff, and I was like, this is incredibly awesome.
A is-
I don't have
is
kids,
for
so I'm not
upper
gonna
class.
buy it. Yeah.
I know B was for Beholder, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I would have gone to
It's-
Battle Axe, but Beholder makes sense.
Yeah.
It's,
T is for Thaco, if you go back to second.
Nice. To hit armor class.
Hit armor class 0.
Oh yeah, right. So what are you most excited about in the board game community?
Oh man, there's infinite things to get excited about in the board game community. I mean, honestly, I think it goes back to the notion that this hobby is growing exponentially. In that, like, the thing that I get most excited for basically every year is con season, which is a double-edged sword for me because it's incredibly exhausting. It puts all of the work that I do to make Grey Fox a successful company on the back burner while I go out and talk about Grey Fox as a company. And I work long days and it's exhausting. And you know, even though I've been on my feet for 18 hours, 3 days straight, I still have to be energetic at the booth. And sometimes that can be brutal. But like, it's also the time when I get to be somewhere and see everybody in this hobby. And the more you're in this hobby, the more you get to know the people in this hobby.
Right,
and
right.
you see podcasters that you know, and you see people that you only see at conventions, and you get together and play things like I'm the Boss, which I can't necessarily get 6 people together to stab each other in the back with every week. And so, like, as a concept, con season is the most exciting. Is the thing that I'm most excited about in the hobby in general. And I honestly, like, it's such a cop-out to be so unspecific, but like when I see how fast things like Board Game Geek sell out, it makes me really pumped to see con season going forward because
Yeah.
there are going to be so many new people there that I don't know, it's almost like it gets to be the first con for you every year.
Yeah,
Because while you get to reconnect with the people that you met the year before, it's so exciting to meet the people who are there for the first time. But I don't know. I mean, like, as far as like a specific game or something goes, I don't have one of those, and I don't tend to find them until con season. Honestly, as
Right.
in the industry, I end up a little bit behind what is hot because I can't just cult of the new everything because I'm working on our games so often. So like last year, for example, I played Codenames at a convention and it blew me away, and I love that game, and I just got my copy like last week.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm excited for whatever the next Codenames is, and it's exciting when people like come to conventions and tell us that games like Deception are the things that made the year for them, and that you know is a really exciting moment for us, and I love it when it happens. But it's one of those things where your games are always last week's news to you, because when you played it for the first time, that was game 200 for me. So when you love it, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad you love it, and then I'm like, holy smokes. Is that Codenames? People are like, yeah, have you not played Codenames? And I'm like, I have not.
That's awesome.
I am super
I
excited. this
don't
year
think I
for
answered
Gen
your
Con.
question. Sorry.
Gen Con's
No,
gonna be
you did.
huge.
Oh my gosh, it's so big.
Is it the first
There-
time for you guys?
No, this will be
We were
my
there
third
last
year.
year.
Okay.
It'll be the first time for me.
But,
Hooray!
but
Yeah.
I mean, that is awesome. But now Gen Con is not only in the convention center, but it's now also in the stadium. I mean, the convention center itself is huge. It's absolutely huge. And now you're going to have part of it in the stadium. Just imagine the future growth, because it's only grown every single year. It's only grown. And oh my goodness, that gets me so excited and nervous at the same time because of, you know, a lot of just hot, nasty, just hot, big people, just nasty. But it's going to be amazing.
I wasn't quite sure where you were going with
Yeah,
that,
bro.
but
The vendors hall at Gen Con is
It was hot last year. It was warm.
yeah, it was, but it's I was going to say that it's an overwhelming experience, and I think
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
I think it's only becoming more so. Like it's so amazing to walk through there and see how much stuff there is, right? Like how much
Yeah.
how much there is that relates to our hobby, and like that's expanding, and like you may go there looking for board games. That doesn't mean that you're not going to find like a suit of armor somewhere, and then like custom made bags somewhere else, and then
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you know, here's the kilt shop over here, and like the artists showing off their work, and like I don't know, it blows me away. And this year is going to be going to be the most intense one that I've ever been to. But I don't know, like the city is also cool. Like I know that as people in this hobby, we get so into what's going on at Gen Con, but like some of the best times I've had at Gen Con is like walking a couple of blocks away and just like grabbing a burger and a beer somewhere else.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy smokes, Indy is a cool city. And like, you find like every restaurant for miles has convention people in it. So you find a burger joint like blocks and blocks away, and you sit down and you set up a game, and then the people behind you also set up a game, and you're like, nice.
Yeah. Everybody there seems like they have this gaming in common. So it's just filled with gamers everywhere. So it's like you can't go somewhere without people that you have a lot in common with. So it's pretty awesome.
It's fun too. If you take like Uber or Lyft anywhere and you talk to the drivers, like most of them don't really know what the convention is all about, and like you can talk to them about it and they're curious. Like I think last year we talked one of our cabbies into coming to Gen Con like one of the following days, like with his family.
That's awesome.
Which was kind of neat, but it's like, I don't know, they're fascinating people to talk to because like they want to know like, hey, what sort of crazy convention is going on now? And they also have good stories about like other crazy conventions that go on in different times of year. So you're like, man, you see some cosplayers walking around town, pretty weird, huh? And they're like, oh, that's nothing when you compare it to the, like whatever.
We got the BDSM convention coming in November.
Exactly. So like
it's gonna
they
be
got
real
good stories. It's fun.
I have an odd story, roughly similar. So I went on a cruise, like the Jonathan Colton cruise. So it's just a giant boat full of nerds, and we took over the entire like second floor of the ship. There's like a big conference center, and so we just took over the whole thing, and it was just full of games. So people were just sitting down at tables playing board games the whole time, and it was funny because we were sharing the boat with some other people who were actually just doing a regular cruise, but we would see like members of the boat, so like the ship's doctor and a bunch of just like random boat people would like come down and like peek in the door, and we'd be like, you can come in, it's okay. So the ship's doctor, I think I saw him in there like every day past the second or third day. He was just in there just playing games constantly, and I was like, this is cool. And then he'd be like, I have to go,
sick.
sick.
You're gonna be fine. Listen, it's my turn, shut up.
Yeah,
was he playing Pandemic?
No, unfortunately, or at least not that I saw.
And he was terrible at it. He's like, no, criminy, everybody died
Guys,
again.
real medicine actually works like this. This game is so messed up.
And that's how we all got quarantined when we got back. But no, it was just a lot of fun, and I feel like the board gaming community is oddly, I don't know, unlike most communities, they're like very sort of, hey, what are you doing? Do you want to come do this? I'm not gonna bite you. It's just fine. Sit down.
Yeah, we're not
play.
elitist yet.
We'll roll.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. We're
It's like-
not.
it's very-
We're not that jock in your face. Like, whoa, we're board gamers. We're like, hey, we're board gamers. Come play with us.
Yeah.
We're not at that point yet where it's like, oh, we were cool first.
It
kind
depends
of a
on what
thing.
part of the community you go to, but we try to be positive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
Most of my run-ins have been positive.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. By and large, I think with any sort of community that starts niche and then grow, there is sort of that hipster element about
Yeah.
Well, I was into board games before they sold out. But I mean, like, I agree that by and large we have a hugely welcoming community, and that's another one of the things that really shows in con season, like that you sit down and play with strangers, that you meet new people all the time, and like that you meet gaming celebrities and how approachable that they are. That people like Tom Vassell or Rodney Smith or whomever, like you bump into them and they're like, "Hey, we got an open spot. You want to play a game?"
Or like Roy Kennedy and Matt Robbins and Robert Newman.
I mean, I didn't want to embarrass you guys.
Pushing the limits of celebrity.
Bro, if you only knew the text that I send to them all the time, like, we had another download, we're famous.
Literally every day. Just
I thought you meant the text that you sent to Tom Vassell and Rodney Smith that are like, "Hey guys, am I one of you yet?" But I don't know. Like I agree. Everybody is welcoming, and I mean, we're inherent proselytizers. We keep wanting to get more people, and maybe Roy's right. Maybe we just are trying to fill some personal need to always have a gaming group. Like, I want to play this right now, and I need 3 people who will do it. So I have to find more people who will do it.
Yeah, it's funny because like my problem with my game group now is like I always have too many people. It's like, man, I really want to play those like 3 and 4 player games, but we always have like 8 people.
And you can't split up into 2 tables?
No, that's a sin. We have to play Deception every week.
I mean, thank
be
you.
fair,
and that
though.
game is great. But
It
like,
is.
you gotta lay down the law and break up the groups every once in a while.
I do. I have, and you know.
To be fair, I think I would rather play Deception than try to play a concept version of Time Stories while you guys are sitting at the table literally
Yelling
2 feet
at
from
the
me,
top of our lungs.
just screaming.
We're
I'm
having
like,
fun,
boy,
man.
I've got to do math over here, and these guys.
At least we weren't playing one
Boy.
night.
That'd have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
So-
completely different subject, Josh. What is your personal favorite movie?
Ooh, good question.
I'm so bad at favorites. I do this with board games. I do it with movies. I do it with foods. Like, I always have a top X as
Yeah.
opposed to a favorite.
So what's
so top
one
3.
off the top of your head that you think is really
Yep.
good?
I'll give one that I think that is really good is Stranger Than Fiction. That is one of my all-time favorite movies
With Christian Slater?
with Will Ferrell.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was thinking. Yeah, never mind. Will Ferrell. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, it's funny because like I'm gonna make a board game comparison here. That movie, like, I don't generally like Will Ferrell movies. I liked Will Ferrell on SNL. Like, I like his little bits, but as far as his comedy movies go, like, I don't know, the humor wears thin for me really quickly. But Stranger Than Fiction is a movie that, like, it fires on all cylinders for me. It's funny. It's got a love story in it. It's got all these like clever writing references, and like, I don't know, the movie's just a lot of fun. So that's a top movie for me, and I think I like that in entertainment in general. Like, I like it when something breaks my expectations of what it's supposed to be. So like, Study in Emerald is a game that, like, it's one of the heaviest games in our line, and it's one of the ones that I'm most likely to bring up and want to play. And it's not because I prefer heavier games, although it may be true that I do, but it's because it doesn't really fit the mold of anything. Like, I tell people, well, this game has hidden roles, but it's not really a hidden roles game, and it has area majority, and it's not really an area majority game, and it has an element of deck building, and it's not really a deck building game. And I feel the same way about Stranger Than Fiction, that it, like, it's a movie that is funny. It's a movie that has a love story, but it's certainly not a romantic comedy. And it's a movie that stars Will Ferrell, but it's by no means a Will Ferrell film.
Yeah.
So that's a top tier movie for me.
Nice.
Have you seen The Big Short?
No, I've heard
Oh, man.
I've heard that is great, and I watched the preview for
Phenomenal.
it just the other night.
I if you can get beyond the mature content and stuff like that in the movie,
Can't.
they did such a great job explaining what's going on, because it's all about the financial crisis in 06, 07, and 08.
Yeah, the housing boom,
the housing crash.
collapse. Yeah,
Well, what's funny is, like, they're going into some really heavy stuff. I get it because I'm a realtor, but they're going into some heavy terms. And during the middle of the movie, they'll stop the movie and they're like, okay, you don't understand a single thing that we're saying right now. So we're going to bring in Anthony Bourdain, and he's going to explain this to you like he was cooking a fish soup. Here you go. And then they'll go on and they come back. You don't understand anything. So we're going to bring in Selena Gomez, and she's going to do this like she's playing poker.
so they
Literally
the
break
fourth
the
wall,
movie.
and then
They look at the camera and they're like, yeah, you feel stupid right now. Well, let's explain why you feel stupid. And then they bring in this celebrity like Robbie Margold. One time she's having a bath, and she's got a glass of champagne, and she's like, listen, the housing market crashed because the interest based on this comparison on the two variable rate. And it's like, that makes sense. Like, why couldn't you just say that? But it's just, I thought it was so creative and so cool on how they were able to take a very serious subject matter and make it where everyone, I think, could really understand it. Really creative movie, and you seem like a creative guy. You should check it out. It's up for rent right now too. It's out on TV.
I'm definitely going to do that. When somebody first recommended that movie to me, I was like, The Big Short? What does that even mean? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then I watched the preview and I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, really well done.
Nice. All right. I'll take that recommendation.
Boom. So I get a free ticket to Gen Con?
I thought you already had your ticket to Gen Con.
Well, free merchandise?
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Get out of here, Rob. No, I'm just kidding.
I do have another question for you, though, if we have
Okay.
time for a question.
I got all the time.
Okay, you used to work at Cool Stuff Inc.
I did.
With your relationship to Cool Stuff Inc. and the big announcement that now Fantasy Flight, a.k.a. Asmodee North America, made about the online distribution, how do you feel about their move in wanting to limit online distribution and help more of the friendly local game store? And can you give us any insight to the fact of how Cool Stuff Inc., if you know, how they
Or
may
miniature
be
market.
affected, how they may be affected by that decision?
I'll I'll answer all of those questions, and I'll preface them with the statement that we no longer have any affiliation with Cool Stuff Inc.
Okay.
Yeah, I started my foray into this industry working for Cool Stuff Inc. and then segueing into Gray Fox Games, which started as an offshoot of Cool Stuff Inc.
Yep.
And Gray Fox Games has since separated, so we no longer have any association with Cool Stuff Inc.
In a
That
good
be-
way or like in a bad way?
I mean, as
Or
far as
mutual.
as far as I know, the separation was fairly amicable.
Okay.
And the president of Gray Fox Games was a part owner of Cool Stuff and is no longer sold out his portion to focus on Gray Fox full time. So I mean, I think the business that we were working on and the business that Cool Stuff provides felt really compatible in the beginning and then seemed less compatible as time went on. And so we as a publisher went out on our own and they continued to focus on retail stuff. As far as what Asmodee is doing, I'll tell you, I don't think the notion that what they're doing to help your friendly local game store is entirely genuine. I think that what they're doing may, in some regards, have that effect, but I think it's a really positive PR spin to put on something that just makes good sense for them business-wise anyway, that they want to have more control over where and how their games are sold and at what price. And they want to sell more of them directly to retailers at a bigger margin than they were selling them to distribution. So
Okay.
I think that ultimately the move is designed in order for them to maximize their profits, which they have the power to do by being as big as they are. And I think that the end result will be that the price between online sales of their games and local game store sales of their games are closer, which will have the effect of boosting sales for your friendly local game store. But I don't think, like, everybody knows that the result is not that your friendly local game store is now going to sell Asmodee games at online game store prices. It means that online game stores are going to sell them at closer to full MSRP. So more money is going to come out of the pocket of the consumer regardless. More of those sales may go to friendly local game stores, and certainly more of that money will go to Asmodee. So it's a move that makes good business sense for them, and it likely will help local game stores, which is great for game communities and people who play in their game stores and game stores that provide that space and that service for people. And hopefully they will get some benefit from that. And we will see more Main Street America game stores for people to play in. None of those are bad things, but the notion that Asmodee is doing it as a favor to the little guy, I think is almost entirely PR spin.
Yeah.
Do you think that other publishers might do things along the same lines, or do you think this will make way for other publishers to still have their games at lower prices online so that they're going out faster? Because if your games are less expensive and still just as good, it might make your games more attractive, you know?
I mean, honestly, I don't know how that's going to play out entirely. Like, I think that I think it will be harder for many other publishers to do that, and
Gotcha.
I don't think you're going to see a wave of publishers trying to ride the coattails of Asmodee and say, well, Asmodee is getting away with it, we can get away with it too, because if you don't have the breadth of line and distribution network and selection and licenses that Asmodee North America has, you don't have the power to make that sort of move. So I think that most publishers are going to continue doing what they've always done, which is get their games out into as many hands as possible, make good games that people will play and that will pay the bills for them to keep making good games. I think
awesome.
that what you will see is that as game companies get bigger and closer to having the kinds of scope that Asmodee now has, that you will see Asmodee looking to buy out those publishers as opposed to seeing those publishers emulate Asmodee.
Right.
Because I mean, they've built an empire, and it's a big impressive empire, and I don't think there's any reason for them at this point to just say, you know what, if you have a great line of games that we think we could do more with, I don't see why they wouldn't try and absorb another publisher.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to go, okay, well, this is the last one.
Guys, we've spent too much money this year. I don't know that that's something that they can say.
Yeah, there's infinite speculation on how this will all pan out all over the internet and all over Board Game Geek, and probably I think that anybody who has said it's going to pan out one particular way is going to find that they are not entirely right.
Correct.
But as like we're a community of savvy shoppers. We're people who look at our hobby critically, and by and large we do our research before we buy our games, and we shop around to get the best price on our games, unless we happen to have a game store that provides a service for us that we really want to support. And I think that ultimately, as in all things sort of capitalistic, the end power lies with the consumer, and that Asmodee's model will exist the way that is most profitable for them, as supported by the consumer. And if they see a lot of pushback from people with their wallet, then their policies might change. And if they see a bunch of people complain about it online, but everybody continues their shopping habits in exactly the same way with Asmodee products, they'll continue to do what they want to do, and everybody at Asmodee will get happy.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your answer. I just thought because you had connections and you're also, working for a company yourself with Gray Fox, like you had a little bit more insight. So
yeah, I mean,
I agree, and I appreciate it.
From what I understand, Asmodee is going to have select retailers, which I believe the major online retailers are among them. I don't think there are lots of places that sell games online that aren't an online retailer, right? Like when you say Miniature Market or Cool Stuff or Card House, like people in this hobby know who they are. And if I'm like Bob's Books and Games, maybe you don't. Bob's Books and Games is not going to be an Asmodee preferred retailer. Everybody else is, and they're just going to have to get their games directly from Asmodee, and they're going to pay a little bit more for them. And as an end result, we're going to pay a little bit more for them when we want to play them. But we're not going to suddenly see the supply dry up. Wherever you got your games before, you're still going to get them, and you're probably just going to see them be a little more expensive. And if you're still willing to pay, then you still get your games, and Asmodee is still happy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you would like to talk about or promote from Gray Fox Games?
I want to tell people to keep an eye on our website. Because the Gray Fox Games website is undergoing kind of an overhaul right now, but we are trying to make it more user-friendly, make information on our games more easily accessible, link to more outside reviews and sources and things like that so people can find out about our games. But we're also installing a cart system so that people can order directly from us, and we're going to be making things like convention promos that we give away at cons available for purchase through the website, and we're going to be doing some special giveaways, like with the Seven Ronin, for example, if people order directly from us. they're going to get some extra goodies. So people should check out grayfoxgames.com over the coming weeks and months and see the evolution and see what sort of goodies you can get. And perhaps most importantly, they should sign up for our newsletter, which goes out about once a month and is kind of just a, hey guys, this is what we're working on, this is what's coming out, these are new release dates, and here's where you can find cool Gray Fox news. So people should check out our website, and that's the thing I want to promote.
Awesome.
By the way, I really appreciate that you sell promos. Looking at you, Cool Mini or Nut.
Right?
Hey, they might sell them on eBay.
Yeah,
Honestly,
Yeah.
presumably they probably don't. They leave that to the fans to get good value out of their Kickstarters.
yeah. It was like Rob got Blood Rage, and I was like, dude, I want to buy Blood Rage. And then he was like, it comes with like half the stuff I have. And I was like, oh. Well.
Yeah, I mean it's a weird line to walk as a publisher. Like when you release something on Kickstarter, you want to be able to do something for your fans, right? The people who are going to be early adopters, who are going to support you in advance, the people who make it so your project can become a reality, you want to give them something.
Yeah.
But you also, once that project has come out and they've gotten their stuff and you're bringing it to the rest of the world, you also don't want everybody else to feel like they missed out. And so it's this fine line to walk that we're trying to find the right middle road for.
Yeah.
Alt art and other things. not gameplay things, please.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something that we talk about every time we do a Kickstarter campaign, and the extras that we want to give to people. But I think that moving forward, in general, what we're going to do is make the promos that come with Kickstarter things that are just included on Kickstarter, but that can also be acquired in the future, either by purchasing directly from us or by buying the promo separately from us or by getting something from us at a convention. We want to make them accessible to people, but we also don't want to just put them out in the market. Like
Right.
if you support us on Kickstarter, you get all these extra goodies, and then 6 months later, maybe people can buy them directly from the website. So if people want to wait for retail, they can wait for retail and know that they're not going to get the promos. And people who don't care about the promos don't have to care about the promos. And people who really want the promos have a way to get the promos. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things, like, we try our best to make everybody happy, and you can never make everybody happy, so we try and make as many people happy as possible.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Well, this has been a podcast. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We stream these Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure to check us out at twitch.tv/Epic Gaming Night. Make sure to hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at Epic Gaming Night, and check out our Facebook page. We also have a Board Game Geek Guild, and you can actually go to our guild and you can get a free micro badge for all you Board Game Geek people.
Ooh,
Yeah, you got to do that, Josh.
I want to do that.
So make sure to check us out on all those things, and hit us up on our email, epicgamingnight@gmail.com. Josh, where can they find you?
Well, they can find Gray Fox Games at grayfoxgames.com. They can follow us on Twitter at Gray Fox Games, and they can check out the Facebook page appropriately titled Gray Fox Games. If they want, they can also follow me on Twitter at JLobkovitz, and maybe you can just stick that in the notes somewhere for people.
Can do.
Mine is not always Gray Fox related, but it is sometimes board game development related, so for people who are interested to that, they can check me out there as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Josh.
Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
How funny would it be right now if it was like, oh crap, the audio didn't work. Sorry, guys.
Hey, can we start again?
That's it. I'm going to bed.
So, Josh, remember that part about the hockey player? Start right there. We're just going to come in right there.
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry.
It was fun.
Hey, it's fun.
What'd you play? Mansions. What'd you play? Emeralds. What'd you play? Chaos. Okay, go. And good night. Yeah. Great Fox Games. Yeah, website. That's great. Okay.
Done.
But yeah, I think it was good. Once we got back into it, it was fun.
Yeah.
Wait, were we live this whole time?
Yes.
That's debatable.
We're not going to go back and edit out all my mess ups? This is the worst.
What mess ups? Everything you
You
say
knew
is
what you were
perfect.
signing
Come
up
on,
for,
man.
Josh.
I know, and I love it. I want to be on every week, and I don't have time for that.
We would let you.
We try to have fun. We're gonna try to do like a 50th episode, which is actually, this is 47. So in like
A month.
a month basically, we're going to have our 50th episode. We're trying to have like a bunch of people that have come on the show in the past come on all at the same time and just talk craziness. So if you're interested in that at all, it should be fun. We were actually thinking about maybe trying to set up a game of Werewolf too, like live.
Oh my god, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
See,
So-
that's what I'm saying. We draw him in with a werewolf, and then we hit him with the hard hitting questions.
Well, Josh is like a sucker for Werewolf anyway, so
I know it's the thing that I mean, I work long days at Gen Con, but Werewolf is the thing that really stops me from getting a good night's sleep. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I just worked 12 hours at the booth. I should go to bed, but I have to play 8 more hours of Werewolf.
you're gonna have to take Matt on your trips for playing
Oh, man.
Werewolf because I'm sure he would be interested in.
Hey, where are you
seeing-
staying at Indy this year?